Well, welcome back. Thank you for doing this again. I can't believe. Now, how many times have you been doing this bit here in Hawaii with us?
This is going to be the 8th annual. It's become a tradition. I love it.
And why? There's a lot of the obvious that people like about Hawaii, and
Yeah.
that's clear. But is there anything more? Because not everybody makes it into that kind of tradition. I mean, 8 years straight is something different.
Well, I always like to mention the fact that 8 years ago, they were telling me it couldn't be done. I said, I want to play Hawaii. I love Hawaii. I've been there a number of times, so I'm never there to work. And they said, we've tried this. They gave me the runaround, and it just doesn't sell. And, they acted like it was some sort of backwater. I'm like, are you kidding? It's Hawaii. What are you talking about? It's the United States. Honolulu's a major city. Maui's a big place now. We could play there. And I couldn't find anybody. Finally, I found the right producer, Rick Bartolini, who now lives there.
That helps.
This gig. And now everybody wants to do it, but they're going to have to fight me for it because I'm going to try to own New Year's Eve in Hawaii for as long as I can.
It's a nice thing to want to own. And you have, and it's, as you mentioned, it's in both cities. Now, it's the same lineup of cats, and give a little rundown of who's doing what this year with you.
Okay, this year, well, it was supposed to be two of my, I thought, Year of the Woman, I'm going to bring two women, Natasha Leggero, who is one of the funniest people on the planet of any sex, and it was supposed to be Wendy Liebman, who I know forever, who's also an hysterically funny person.
Right.
She was hit by a car a month ago and still wanted to make it, but the doctor said probably not a great idea to travel that far. So Carol Leifer, the great famous Carol Leifer, the model for Elaine on Seinfeld, one of the greatest comedians ever, she's coming aboard. And so it's going to be the Year of the Woman and then me to balance things out.
And this is, when it comes to the New Year's one of these two, Bill, how does it time out with the 12 o'clock kind of deal? Are you right up to that, or what's the deal?
No, we're gone well before that. People want to have their dinner. They want to have their drink. They want to get their dance on. So I think we'll get you out there by 10:30 the latest. I usually come out, do a half hour of rundown of the year we just had, the political stuff, bring on one of the comics for a half hour, then I go back. I do another half hour, a little more personal stuff, bring on the next comic. We always have a few surprises. There's always some celebrities on the island.
Yeah, right. You've had, I'm trying to think, I know a couple of the names from previous ones. I think you had Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam do something one year.
Many years.
And you've had...
That's almost a tradition now. And we sing, it's also become a tradition that we sing Smile at the end of the show, the Charlie Chaplin's theme song. I taught it to Eddie. He thought I was crazy at first, but now he loves it. And we bring out everybody. And we think it's a fitting end of the year passing, going into the new year. It's an optimistic song, also a song written by a comedian. Charlie Chaplin became his theme song. We all know it. Smile, though your heart is aching, that one. So it always wraps up great, and I think everybody has a good time.
Sean Penn, too, right? I saw his.
Sean's there, yes. Woody Harrelson is on the other island. They have their own islands, and neither the Shane shall cross. But there's always a bunch of people hanging around there. Of course, who doesn't want to be in Hawaii at that time of year, any time of year, but especially that time of year?
So you got a great lineup of cats there, and it's cool how you run down what happens at the show, which I didn't really realize it was sort of a split deal the way that you do that. And when you were mentioning some of the topics that you cover, I was looking at your social media feed to get a little insight into where your head is at these days. And it's funny because last year, right around now, you had the same thing up there, and it's so adorable. You're there giving exposure to one of what looks like your favorite animal nonprofits, Project Chimps, and this adorable creature that's up there, and you've written a little note, it looks like. Explain your love of them.
Well, I mean, you're going to get me starting to cry here because we're killing all the animals in the world at this point. I mean, in the last 40 years, half the species on this planet have gone extinct. And the oceans are going to be bereft of fish in a couple of decades. Insects are endangered now. And, if the insects go, they say that sets off a string of events in the ecological system where we go. You know, the bees pollinate the plants that make half the food that we eat. This is insane what we're doing to the environment, and I think people are getting more aware of that, but I hope it's not too late. And, of course, chimps are our cousins, and they're beautiful creatures, and they're not meant to be pets, and they're not meant to ride on tricycles, and they're not meant to smoke cigars and wear tuxedos.
Right.
You know, it's just elementary humanity. If you treat animals badly, it's almost a guarantee you're going to start to treat people badly. Whenever they find serial killers and people like that, they always started out torturing animals. So let's get on this page. You know, there's a lot of things we used to do in this world that we look back at and cringe, and we're going to look back at the way we treated animals if we're still here in 50 years, and I think cringe on that. So let's all get on the page now.
You think that elephants and rhinos will still be in the wild after you and I are gone? Or China? What do you think about China being this driver of so many different extinction crises like those?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just China. I think the rhinos and the elephants have a greater chance of surviving if they put Don Jr. in jail.
Right. Well, China does play a central role, though, because of their size. I mean, it's...
Yes, because they have silly ideas in Asia sometimes about how they can, you know, be a better lover if they rub a rhino horn on their... It's ridiculous, but that's what goes on. And, you know, all over the world people have crazy superstitions and ideas, and animals are usually the ones who pay the price for it. You notice they never are shy about using animals when they want to sell something. They're in like every Super Bowl commercial. They're in half the commercials on television. When you want to sell something, then the elephant's fine. But when it comes to protecting them, somehow people get scarce.
When did you get passionate? When you were a kid, what was your first animal in your life?
I'm sure it was the first dog I had. But, I don't know. I've never been that fond of people.
I know that.
But animals are innocent. You know, I think I have the same feeling about animals that some people have about the unborn. I mean, I'm a pro-choice person, but I get that argument. You don't have to be religious to understand that, you know, it's kind of dicey. This is something that's becoming a life, and it is absolutely unable to defend itself. That's how I feel about animals. They're unable to defend themselves. They need someone to do it, and they need a real tough-ass son of a bitch like me to help.
Are you still on the board of PETA?
Absolutely.
When did you join that, and how did that become? I mean, that says a lot right there. People for the ethical treatment of animals.
Yes. I mean, that was so long ago. I was at an event of theirs recently, maybe a year ago, and it looked like the Oscars. I mean, there were so many celebrities. It was a big venue. It was a major production, it looked like, and I was just laughing with Ingrid Newkirk, who's the person who started this, the genius who has put this issue on the map. And we were laughing about the fact that 25 years ago, when we were first starting to have these little events, it was like in somebody's backyard, and it was just a few of us. It was me and Pam Anderson and a few other animal lovers, and that was it. But it really has become something that I think not just celebrities, but people all over the country, all over the world are involved in now. And they get it, that animals are very sentient beings. You know, people think when they see what goes on in a slaughterhouse, they don't know what's happening to them. They absolutely do. Pigs have heart attacks right before they're about to be killed in the slaughterhouse. They know what's going on. They can't speak, obviously, but they feel. They're smarter. Every time they do research on these creatures, they find out they're smarter than we ever thought they were. They communicate with each other. They communicate as best they can with us. And it's just incredibly cruel to treat them as if they are not sentient beings.
Are you a vegetarian or vegan?
I am not. I don't eat a lot of meat. I would say I eat it fairly rarely. But for me, people for the ethical treatment of animals means just that, the ethical treatment, which means no factory farming. We just passed a law here in California, I'm happy to say.
Prop 12.
You can't keep the chickens in horrible cages with no room to roam, stuff like that. But as far as the food chain, I mean, animals eat each other. I'm not 100% convinced that some people, maybe it's based on blood type, they're still doing research on that, some people don't need some animal meat in their diet. So I make sure that whenever I do eat meat, it's from an animal that died of natural causes after resting comfortably at Cedars-Sinai after a long illness.
And I hear you totally. And they're very lucky to have an advocate like you. Every time I see Prince William or Harry or William speaking, I always think the same thing, that when somebody who has a lot of visibility, like one of you cats, is taking up their cause, it really says a lot. As a final note, before I wrap it up with you, and I didn't even realize this, and I guess it's a sort of animal-related note in our current situation in America, I forgot that Trump had sued you briefly, and that included another primate that you love, orangutans.
Yes. Well, the way that came about was, as you recall, he was getting his racist bona fides back in 2013 by questioning whether Obama was legitimate, as if he had somehow been born in Kenya and then was spirited here to America as some sort of Manchurian candidate to become president of the United States. And once Obama released his birth certificate, Trump went to, okay, now I want to see his college records, and offered Obama $5 million to a charity of his choice. I'm sure Trump would have welched on that if he'd ever done it. But if he would produce his college records, because there was something very suspicious about Obama going to college. So I then went on the air and said, I will give Trump $5 million if he can prove that he is not the son of his mother and an orange-haired orangutan. Because when we showed the picture of Trump next to the orangutan, they are almost the exact same coloring, the exact same tint of orange. So he goes into court and produces his birth certificate, which I find is so ironic that I made him produce his birth certificate to prove that he wasn't the son of an orangutan, and therefore I owed him $5 million. As if it's possible for a human and orangutan to even have a child together. But we know he was never really great about science. So I had to defend this lawsuit. I mean, it cost quite a bit of money. You have to hire lawyers. Of course, the second a judge saw it, he laughed and threw it out of court. But it just shows what Trump does. He uses his bullying power, the fact that he's got a lot of money, the fact that he can engage people in frivolous lawsuits, to bully them. But he wasn't going to bully me. I stood up to him, and, at the end of the day, the lawsuit got thrown out.
Same color as an orangutan. That's
exactly
really something.
The same color.
I love it. It's Bill Maher, and he's bringing his world of madness back here again for year 8, right? Is that what we said at the beginning of the conversation? And on Maui, too, on the 30th, then here at...
Yes, we're changing. We used to do it on January 1st on Maui, and we thought, everybody's kind of tired after New Year's Eve.
Right.
That's New Year's night. Let's do it the day before. Nobody's got anything to do on the 30th. That's a completely empty day for most people. So we're doing it the 30th in Maui, and then our usual New Year's Eve in Honolulu.
Looking forward to it. And
thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Hope you had fun.
You too. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.